Here we are on this gorgeous fall morning, introducing to you the brand new Blickman Engineering Anvil branded. Wow, there's a lot of stuff going on here. We got an Anvil. Did we pay for this?
No.
No, they sent it to us?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Thanks, Blickman.
Thanks, Blickman.
We actually reached out to them and asked them about it because it seemed they were just coming out with this, and it looked like a really, really cost-efficient and well economic for all the utility that it has piece of equipment. So we wanted to try it out. I asked them and they said, sure, that sounds like a great idea. So they sent us one, and now here it is, ready for us to open and investigate.
So this works on the same principles as your Robobrew, or what's the other one we played with? The Mash and Boil. But supposedly, as they are advertising, this has sort of worked out some of the kinks. One of which is that the Robobrew and Mash and Boil are like 8 gallons-ish, I think, 8.5. So a little bit limited on capacity.
Love the fact that this is oversized. It's a 10.5 gallon capacity to be able to brew 5 gallons. And so if you want to do that barley wine, you got it.
So also, issue with the Mash and Boil in particular has been scorching for us, where you tend to get a little bit of scorch sort of no matter what. Doesn't seem to affect the flavor of the beer, but makes it a pain in the butt to clean. And these guys are claiming that this will not scorch because it's lower density.
And they use 3 elements instead of just 2. So, you know, by kind of dispersing that a little bit better, it's going to be less hot spots to try to get that caramelization and that scorch flavor on the bottom of your burner.
Boom. Also 220/40.
That is available. It doesn't come standard.
thing.
You don't have to use 220, so it comes with the option to use it as a 120 volt standard plug-in like you have in your kitchen on your countertop where this is meant to brew. But you can also go 220, which is really cool because if you're boiling 10.5 gallons of water, if you want to use it as maximum capacity, that's going to take a lot of power and it's going to take a long time to use under 120. Another thing that this says is this is the same as with the, I believe, Mash and Boil, but not with the Robobrew, is the fact that it's double-walled, meaning it has a more insulated body. So if you're mashing in, you're not going to lose temperature as easily.
Also, you don't burn the crap out of yourself when you lean against it. I've never done that.
Yeah, it's not happened. And they did send us the one with the recirculation pump kit, which is an additional $100. And so when we strongly recommend getting that recirculation pump because if you want to do any sort of step mashing, or if you want to start raising up to a mash at temperature while the grains are in there, being able to recirculate is going to make it so that you don't have that concentrated wort sitting on the bottom of the kettle while the burners are going. Again, reducing that risk of any sort of scorching that goes on, because once you get a little bit of scorching, a little bit of caramelization, everything else kind of tends to grab onto that same spot.
And for $100, I mean, that's a pretty damn good price point. Let's be real.
Yeah, you can't buy a pump and tube kit for $100. Oh, the high flow grain basket?
Oh, supposedly it's got some fancy grain basket on it, so
we'll have to test that out and see if the grain basket that they have is any different, better, or worse than what we have with the Mash and Boil or the Robobrew.
Well, let's get this thing out of the box. And on our table with a bunch of extra stuff today. Yeah, no, this is cool. Already noticing this thing has a whole bunch of features and supplies with it that a lot of these other things just didn't come with. We're going to be going through what all it came with as we put this guy to the test, which is going to be
barley wine.
Yeah, so supposedly the capacity of the grain basket in this guy is 16 pounds.
So we're going to try to go 20 because, you know, yeah, we could do that with the Robobrew, so why not do it with this?
Yep, we're going to give it a torture test. It's also going to give it a bunch of sugars, so if it doesn't scorch, then
it's not going to scorch lighter beers, too.
And it's not going to scorch lighter beers. So let's go ahead and
put it together.
Thing, some water, get it cleaned up, and get brewing.
And put beer in it.
Is that such a weird name?
We're going to make some steel things. Is that what we're doing?
Good morning, YouTubers. It has been 2 days now since we shot that last clip. Yesterday, we made up a beautiful starter, which is going to be right there. So that's a 2-liter starter with some pub strain that we are going to be brewing our barley wine today. And right over behind me here I got our kettle all set up. I already swapped over the outlet from 110 to 220. Pretty basic. All I did was cut off the plug and put a 220 plug on, and then flip the little switch on the back of there. So we're all good on that case. So let's get some water and get going before Peter gets here. That'll do. Alright, what do we got here? Power. 100%, not one. There we go, 100%. Temperature. We're gonna go up to about $1.65. 66, that'll do. Alright, so we are now set at 100% power at 88 degrees Fahrenheit. Time is 9:20 in the morning. So let's see how fast this takes it to get up to our strike tent. Super cool feature about this guy, as you can see right there, actually comes with the maximizing dip tube. None of these other systems come with anything close to that. All stainless. Looks like it's got good build quality to it. Gonna save us a little bit on our losses. And just like that, we are up to temp. Let's check our time here. Looks like 9:54. So that is about 35 minutes or so. Not too shabby with that little bit of extra wattage that we're pulling. And since Pedro is pooping, I'm gonna have to start this whole process by myself. Oop. Also, I got 7.5 gallons of water in here. I'm gonna dump out a couple gallons of that into mash and boil so I can start using that for hot liquor, because you know that's more water than I need right now.
All right, let's get this mashed in here.
Oh, look at you go. Pro status. All right, that's probably good for a sec.
Get a little stir action.
Bam!
So one of the reasons we wanted to do a barley wine is because we really actually want to test out the maximum capacity of the Foundry brew system. We found out with the Robobrew, which is about 9 gallons, that we were able to put 17 or 18 pounds of grain in at full capacity. And since this is just a little bit bigger, we figured why not try 20? What do they say the capacity should be?
16 pounds.
You have to do a really thick mash at max capacity, and a good chunk of the water for all this is actually sitting underneath the grain bed. So it's not like a cooler mash tun where you can put in all your water and all your grains and they occupy the same space. There actually is some dead space underneath, but we're gonna try to take care of that a little bit with slightly over sparging, and then also just with recirculating during the entire mash.
Letting that mash settle a little bit and then adding a little bit more.
Exactly. For flow control, they don't have like a ball valve or anything specific for flow control, but what they do have is this little tube squeezer. So you can start out with a little bit squeezied of a tube, and then we can open or close the squeeziedness to adjust our flow. So this is all part of the recirculation kit, which I highly recommend you guys get, especially if you're gonna do any sort of step mash, but also just to maximize your efficiency in any brew. Recirculation is gonna help the efficiency and the clarity as well.
That is a beautiful thing right there. It looks like that diffusion plate is working brilliantly.
Yeah, so we just want to go nice and slow for the start because we don't know exactly where it's going to even out, and we don't want to be sucking too much out of the bottom. If we go too fast right at the beginning, one thing that'll happen is that grain bed will compress a lot, and it'll make it really hard to sparge down the road. So we're going to go really slow for this, and then towards the end of the mash, when things start to clarify a little bit, we might speed it up a little bit and see. All right. And not surprisingly, we actually are dealing with a little bit of a stuck mash here. So when we're recirculating, it's not funneling through. That's very typical of vertical mash tuns like this.
Luckily, our beautiful assistant Tim has this wonderful giant scoop of rice holes that hopefully will fix this problem.
Yeah, we're gonna throw these in and hopefully fix the problem. We don't know if it's going to. This is still like on commercial scales. You definitely see more horizontal mash tuns, and so vertical mash tuns are very susceptible to this. So we'll see if this fixes the problem. If not, it looks like we're still getting good conversion. It's just gonna make the sparge more difficult because we're gonna have to do a very slow sparge if this gets stuck by the time we get to that point. All right, so it's been about 2 more hours now, and one thing that we've noticed already is that we've had a couple more stuck mashes stuck recirculation. So once we've kept stirring, kept letting sit, kept stirring, kept letting sit, all the more reason that this is probably definitely a 16-pound or under system. But we're making it work, and it's looking all the way converted right now. So
beautiful, clear work coming through this guy.
And you can smell the nice maltiness of that 1823 Baird's Maris Otter.
Yep.
So the next step for us is just to pull the grain basket out using our giant muscles, because this is definitely a lot of grain. And then getting in our sparge water, which we have heating up below us, and
let her go.
Yeah, we'll show you a really cool thing that we think about how this whole basket system works too. One thing I want to mention is they do have a removable ledge. What do you want to call this? A removable holder thing for the grain basket to sit upon. The cool thing about that is that when you go to clean this whole system out, that's one spot I've noticed gets a lot of grain stuck under it that's just very, very difficult to clean out. And so the fact that this is removable is awesome.
That's gonna be really heavy, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh look,
very
magical step stool fairy.
All right,
I'm gonna let you kind of hold that there for a second because I don't want to get my hands hot. You got it though, it's not heavy at all, right? And now that we're resting this on 2 upturned totes, this is completely stable.
I do honestly, I like this grain basket system way better than any of the other ones. Just the way the legs sit on this. This is welded on and it seems really stable.
Also, there's a Seahawks game in the background.
And you've got the perforated bottom along the sides too, that makes it so you do get a little bit extra drainage area. So this should drain pretty well. After a little bit of jankifying, we are heating up to a boil right now while sparging in. The diffusion plate right there is working beautifully. This is nice and stable and a good level platform, so this whole system is working very awesome. Basically what we're gonna try to get over 9 gallons boiled in here so that we can use a 4-hour boil to really reduce that down and get a proper barley wine strength beer. That is almost full.
Got it. Yes, we oversparged.
That went a lot faster than I thought it was going to. I am not used to that fast of a drainage.
Turns out those rice holes actually worked a lot. Nailed it. All right, check out this full kettle here. I think it's like 10 gallons in there, honestly. We'll see what we get. Look at that, totally did not boil over. Not yet. See you back in a couple hours.
All right, so the same grain basket that we use for mashing in, I'm gonna use for a hop filter as well. That's one of the nice things about this. It actually comes up above the level of the boil. And so it can boil in there, I can throw in my hops, and then they'll still be filtered out somewhat. I don't really care too much about filtering out all the hop particles, but enough so that I'm not dealing with anything transferring through the pump, and I don't have to worry about how quick I get that beer out of the primary fermentation.
And I'm here too.
For some reason. God, you're so there.
Boom! We just added hops. This is probably gonna break out now.
Don't boil over, don't boil over, don't boil over.
You gonna blow on it?
Also an update as to where we're at right now. It's been boiling for probably 2.5, 3 hours, somewhere in there. And we're now down to like 7.5 gallons. Only 2 more gallons to go.
Yeah, because Peter also added 2 more gallons in, so.
I'm thinking it's gonna be about another 90 minutes total, which will put us right at 4.5 hours total time for the boil. Lessons learned. That's the most important part about brewing all the time and brewing while drinking and brewerizing is, you just learn stuff. Like, for example, if you've got the power up at 100% on 220 and you put the grain basket in, which gives you a little bit more spaces to have fine bubbles come up, you increase your risk of boiling over. As we also know as brewers, you also quadruple your risk of boiling over while walking away and not looking at it and drinking. Sometime along the course of a, right now going on 5-hour boil, we hit an E3 error and we're troubleshooting that. Right now we're just gonna drain that out, probably clean off the bottom, see if it's scorched, and then pour the liquid back in and then kick it back up. All right, so we're just cleaning out that burnt layer that was on the bottom there. When you do that, it's super important that you use a non-metal scrub pad. The reason being, you don't want to scratch the bottom. Those scratches that you can kind of create on the bottom are super great spots for sugars to glom onto and burn in future batches. So when you're not doing 5-hour boils like we're doing now, you don't want to run into the same problems. So just make sure you're not scratching that bottom. Now what we're doing is I put the grain basket back in, now that it's down to 5-ish, less than 6 gallons, this is going to be great because there's not a risk of boiling over like it was when we were at 8.5 plus gallons. So the grain basket's gonna be really good. I'm putting the brown sugar in, and I want this grain basket in because I don't want it to go straight to the bottom where the elements are and create more burning sugars, basically. So I'm just gonna pour these in, and these will dissolve for about 5 minutes before we shut off this boil. And then at that point, we'll be done. So one of the things that's super exciting about this is the best chiller that we've seen in any of these coffee can style all-in-one single unit brew system.
It came with vinyl. We upgraded it to silicone. Peter's gonna go sanitize the fermenter for me, and we're gonna plug this thing off and call it a day. Now that we've given it a proper torture test. Oh, Fujimo. I think we're at 1.113 specific gravity.
That'll do, folks. Oh, yeah, we're transferring. Super easy because of both gravity and pump. That little mini pump is super awesome. Check out our Instagram. We stored it. And this got super cold super fast. So while this is moving in here, I'm gonna actually go grab our starter of pub yeast. It's gonna be the first little bit of yeast magic that we got going on for this.
So that's probably gonna blow off, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's blowing off for sure. I'm just gonna cover. Honestly, I'm not even gonna stop for that. I'm just gonna cover that hole with some aluminum foil. We'll come back tomorrow and clean up the mess and just deal with it. That's it. We got cleanup. High five. All right, it's been a little over 3 weeks since we last saw you when we finished that up. To give you just a little rundown on what all we did when we finished that brew day up is we had a huge pitch of pub yeast, giant starter that we made. We pitched that, but that is a notorious flocculator, so we knew it was gonna kind of die out around 10:30, which it did. And being the prepared gentlemen we are, we had a starter of Pac-Man yeast ready to go, which is the Rogue strain. We used Joystick from Imperial. So we pitched that, and since then it's been ripping.
Chugging along, getting those last few points down. Hopefully we'll get her down to about 10-20 or so. And
yeah.
I think at that point we're gonna throw it in a keg and essentially let it sit for a long time.
Yeah, so let's just go ahead and give you a rundown on what all we liked and didn't like about using that Anvil system for such a magnanimous brew.
I think probably the best feature is the overall size. Brewing on something that big, especially for doing that 5+ hour boil that we ended up doing, you literally just couldn't do with anything else. Having 10 gallons of volume to work with is actually a really nice feature to have.
Yeah, so the size is one big awesome feature about it. The thing that goes along with that size is the fact that you can actually get this in 220, which means you can have more power running to the system. You don't need to, it comes stock with 120, yep. But you can get that upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, like you saw earlier in the video, that power, I mean, having the time that it takes to heat up water, having that really vigorous boil if you want it, that's great. That's great to work with. So yeah, if you got 220, man, plug it in.
Yeah, and I think this is the only system that comes where you can actually use both on the same system. Every other system that I've seen, you have to buy one or the other in advance. So that's kind of cool. If you want to like buy it at 120 and then upgrade later, you can do that.
Yep. Another really effective, really simple feature that I absolutely loved is definitely going to be just the fact that it's got that little dip tube in there.
Oh yeah.
That it's a simple feature, like I said, but having that dip tube allows you to actually get that last bit of volume out of the kettle, where a lot of these systems, you actually end up left with a half gallon, maybe even 3/4 of a gallon of volume in there.
And the other thing is that also, since you're using a dip tube instead of a hole in the bottom of the kettle, basically, is that you're not running the risk of getting your pump clogged. Because the dip tube is pretty good at reducing sediment and letting the sediment fall around it. So
there's something to be said about the overall simplicity of having an external pump. And while some people might see that as a downside because it's another piece of equipment, you know, that's kind of sitting outside, I personally, from all my experience, find that is more of a benefit because, for one, a lot of the internal pumps on some of the other systems seem to plug up pretty frequently. And so even if this external pump does plug up, it's going to be really easy to, you know, take it apart, unplug it, do whatever you need to do. And then two, you end up actually getting a little more power out of it. It definitely seemed like it had more flow than some of the internal pumps and other units.
To go with that, that is upgradable, which is really nice. One of the things that we found was a downside to the whole system was the ability to control the flow rate once you were recirculating your mash. If you get that pump firing too fast, it can actually compress the grain bed, which can risk stuck sparges or stuck vorlavs if you're doing that. And so that little piece that they had to just restrict the tube in terms of controlling flow, it wasn't the best. But that said, you can always do the upgraded recirculation system that comes with a Blickman Riptide pump, and that has a needle valve on it.
Yep, I would say that's probably the one place where I think Blickman kind of fell a little bit short. I would have liked to see coming off the pump some kind of a valve and just charge people an extra $15 or $20 for it. But at the same time, at that price point. What is that? $370 with another $100 for the pump kit. It's hard to go wrong. I mean, you're hard pressed to find a good pump system for that price point.
Plus, you still have an awesome. That thing was pretty powerful. You have an awesome pump to use in any other parts of your system if you need. To go further than that, just kind of a lot of the things that we saw when we were using the Anvil system just showed that this was something that was designed by engineer brewers, like people that have brewed and know what they liked and didn't like. One of the things that I found was just a really key component that I enjoyed was the ring that the grain basket sat on is removable. In every other system, it's welded on, which means that when you're going to clean out the whole system, there's always little nooks and crannies that are hard to get to. That being removable, I really enjoyed it, and it was probably easier for them to make. And so just a smart piece of engineering that you wouldn't have thought about until they did it.
Yeah, speaking of engineering, another great feature is that they actually designed a proper chilling coil to put in that system. Something that sits all the way to the bottom, has good, I don't know what to call that. It's not just some clump of steel that you're putting in there. All of those coils are separate at a very regular interval, which is going to give you the most efficient cooling. And then also they actually gave you the tubing you need to hook the dang thing up, which, as one of the gripes about the other systems is that they give you this random coil with no fittings, no tubing. So you actually have to go to the store and do that. And the fact that they took the initiative to say, hey, you buy this thing out of the box, you can open it up, plug it in, and use it, says something about the forethought about this product.
Yeah, and just being brewer mindful. I really enjoyed that. It was a very efficient chilling coil, and I honestly can see using it in other systems as well. But one last thing that I think is just kind of shows the ingeniousness of the engineering mind they had was the fact that they had that little hooky tube that goes at the end of the pump recirculation kit and just a tiny little hole in the lid.
Oh yeah.
That's all it took to hook on.
Yeah, a simple concept again, but extremely, extremely effective. I know that's kind of been the bane of, honestly, our whole brewing is trying to figure out ways to, do whirlpools, trying to figure out ways to recirculate. A lot of times it means building specialized little arms and bits, and yeah, all you need to do is cut a hole in the lid, it turns out.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was, overall, I think we had a really positive experience using that. I think that would be definitely my go-to system, which isn't to bash the other systems. We've done videos on like the mash and boil and the Robobrew, now the BrewZilla or something like that, whatever they're calling it. And those were great systems and just an awesome concept. It makes using any of those makes brewing so much easier to get into and so much less daunting to start a brew day.
Yep. I think overall, out of the systems that we've worked with here, this is the best yet that I have found to date. With that said, we got another one, so stay tuned to the channel. We'll be doing another review here. But yeah, I think when it comes to my Christmas list and I can actually brew beer at home again, then that's probably the one I'm going to go with.
Yeah. Great job, Anvil Foundry. We appreciate you sending us a system to try out. Overall, very positive experience, and we'll be using it a lot in the brew house for our small batches and for our starters.
All right, thanks for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, subscribe,
follow us on Instagram,
smash some stuffs,
smash your plate, smash the comments section.
And we'll see you next time on Genus Brewing. And I don't have tea because somebody made a starter in my tea kettle.
That wasn't me.
Yeah,
It wasn't me. It's Tim. Stop blaming me for stuff.
See you next time on Genus Brewing. Viva la beer.
The dip tube working?
Hey, check that out, by the way. Oh yeah, you see that? Everyone see that?
This is the only
working
system that has a dip
so
tube.
good. Would have been good. Jesus. I don't know what's happening. It's Still don't know what's happening.
He's diffusing light.
Jim just put something up in the mic. Oh, and now I know what's happening. Yep, that just happened.
So when you're making a barley wine, you have a lot of downtime, and it's super important to use that downtime to read books and exercise. You don't want to drink while you brew. That's the wrong part of the pump. It's the wrong pump button. At Genus here, we go out hard.